How does grit make or break a creative career? That's what we're going to be talking about today on the Sick Picnic. Hey everybody, I'm your host and creative spirit guide, Matt Geiler, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Sick Picnic. But before we dive in, I would just love to encourage you to hit that subscribe button and follow us. And if you do that, you're going to get the Sick Picnic newsletter, and every month you're going to get some inspiration, some recommendations, and some fun stuff to supercharge your creativity. And now, I can't wait to get into it because I love today's guest, and I can't wait to talk to him. Brit McAdams began his career in commercials, where he was named Shoot Magazine's Best New Director. In addition to winning the Television Academy's Governor's Award, he went on to be nominated for an Emmy for honesty, while also directing shows including Tosh.0 and films including Cat Williams' American Hustle. Of course, his latest and greatest film, Paint, starring Owen Wilson, was called a work of art by the Wall Street Journal. I love this man. I love to squeeze him. I love to be in his presence, and I can't wait to chat with him today. Please welcome to the Sick Picnic, my friend and your favorite, Brit McAdams.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Maddie.
Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm so thrilled to talk to you. Of course, today we're going to be talking a little bit about like grit and perseverance over the course of a creative career. But before that, I'd kind of like to just reminisce a little bit about how you and I met. We met back in old Los Angeles.
Yeah, we loved Matt. Began his comedic career with my wife, Jen Smedley, as a Weisenheimer in Nebraska. So Jen made her way out here 25 years ago or so. She's part of my Mom So Hard, hashtag I'm Mom So Hard. And so Matt was one of her friends who was here, who we really loved having here. And we thought it was really rude when you moved away.
I mean, yeah, it was kind of a rude move to do, right? Just when we were getting on so well.
Exactly. Exactly. That was before you'd start running a ton. I mean, you were running a little bit, but not running to the extent you started running. Your hair was very, very short. And now it's like shorter than it's been. My hair is troublingly long at this point, which it's a bad tie at this point, because like people be like, "Oh, I love your hair." But it doesn't, they just got caught looking at it. Like, what's going on there? So then it's the same as a bad tie. So they have to be like, "Oh, great tie." Like, so that's sort of where I am right now.
But you've always kind of worn your hair, at least since I've known you. It hasn't been overly long, but I don't think I've ever seen you with short hair.
We're getting into mullet. Like, we're getting into, it's getting there, and it's not going to stop. It's also my commitment to it at this point, where it's going to keep going. So that's part of what's happening.
I want to encourage you to keep going, because I pushed through an awkward phase and I got to where I wanted to go. I said at the start of the pandemic, Britt, I was like, I'm not going to ever get my hair cut in the regular way again. I'm never going back to that. And then there was like 6 months where it was real. I mean, like my family they'd avoid me in our house. So you went to that, and then, but then it started getting to a real lustrous kind of a long thing, and I was like, yes. I was trying to achieve kind of a like a 1977, 78-ish vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My thing was, I was trying to look like I got kicked out of the Eagles.
I think you still do look like you got kicked out of the Eagles. I mean, it's even with your hair this length, I do feel like you're a Don Meisner. You know what? It's Randy Meisner. Oh, is it Randy Meisner? Is that his name? What's his name?
I like Don Meisner better because it's like the combination of, the iron will of Don, and then the wilting obedience of Meisner until he just can't take it anymore and he moves back to Scotts Bluff.
It's so good. As I was saying that, I was like, it's not right. It's not as right. Here we go.
Donnie Meisner.
Yeah.
You remember that
stuff about the Eagles, man. The Eagles a lot of their stuff is not aged well. I mean, Timothy B. Schmidt like seems to be a lovely guy, but it seems to be a lot of like, this was a hard band to be in, but they sounded great.
They sounded great. Actually, an earlier guest on our podcast, he has a story about how Don Henley came out of a recording booth and attacked him for using the talk back. I guess Don Henley like bull rushed him. It happened while the actual engineer had taken a restroom break, and then he kind of wrestled Don Henley into a couch, like into a side table by his neck. And then everything cooled down and went back to normal. But then that gained him Glenn Frey as a friend for life.
Oh, interesting. Glenn approved it. It's weird because I always feel like anytime I've heard anything, it was like Glenn being like, Don Henley was the guy. Like Don Henley was the Eagles. Like, and the reverence that he had for Don Henley, that's interesting that he really wanted him to be hurt.
I'd like to know a little bit about how Brit McAdams works. That's what this episode is all about. It's about celebrating working artists and finding out about the creative journey along the way. So that's why you're here. I want to pepper you with questions about your own creative practices.
All right. Pepper away.
Can you talk about the making of Paint just for a little bit? I know you've been probably inundated with interviews about it, but I've been aware of it for a while. And so I just wanted to start by asking you when you actually began working on Paint.
I started writing Paint in 2009, and I wrote it pretty quickly. It made it to the Blacklist, which is a list of sort of the quote unquote best unproduced screenplays. This guy Mike White came on to produce it. He got on a Friday and called me Saturday morning at like 9 a.m. to say he loved the script, which was just an incredible affirmation. Real, like this first sort of affirmation I think that I could write, and it was pretty great. And so, because Mike White's like White Lotus among other things, but like that guy is ridiculously talented. So it quickly moved forward, and we got greenlit for a bunch of money, and everything was great. And then it fell apart for about a decade. And so, so it was really, really fast. I'd say one of the finer moments in there was that after we got financed, we got all this really good news, and I was with Jen and actually Ron Hallett, who's from Nebraska, who's a good friend. And so, and we went and we met a bunch of friends at the 3rd Street Promenade after I got all this incredible news. And this guy, Scott Biener, who's actually in the movie, he plays 2 parts. He plays Brian Hoffman, who is on a phone call, and he's also a newscaster at the end. He's from Omaha. That's crazy. He's from Omaha. So basically everyone in the film's from Omaha. So I was with my wife, Jen, from Omaha. He ran towards me at the 3rd Street Promenade, which is this open air market in Santa Monica. And it's like beautiful. And it was at night. And I jumped into his arms, which I think was difficult for him. Yeah. So we went to a bar, and a bunch of people met us there because it was great news. And then I bought a round of shots. It was a tequila bar. I bought a round of shots for the bar. My first and last time doing that, because what I did not know was if you buy a round of shots for a bar, everyone buys you back a shot, pretty much. I just was bulletproof. I was so happy. Like I had a giant globe margarita, and then I had a shot, and then I had like 8 or 9 shots immediately after that, just celebrating. Like the server was like, "Here's my headshot," like this is ridiculous. And I woke up the next morning. This is not the story you want to hear in the least, but about getting this made. But it's a great tangent. And so I woke up the next morning. I was like, I don't feel that bad. Like I was like, I really drank a lot, and I don't really feel that bad. And I walked in to the bathroom, and it looked like a scene. It was like The Shining, or like it was just the amount of blood all over the bathroom and everywhere. And that's when I realized it was not blood. It was that giant red margarita that I had. And I had just thrown that up like everywhere. And then I looked down, and just on that big fluffy bath mat, there was just a single Tums sitting there on top of that. And that's when I realized that what had happened was I just remember I got home, like got in front of the sink and was like, I don't feel great. I need a Tums. And like put the Tums in, and it was like, nope. Yeah. And then 12 years later, we made the movie. So that's the story. After we're done recording, I will be sweating thinking about like, why did I tell that story? Like, why did you do that? The weird thing about making a film, and it's an independent film, but you basically have to put together a company. You have to build a company to make a film. So it's like, and everything can fall apart. So it's like just stuff falls apart, and then years go by. But years can go by, and it's not an unfamiliar story. Like you talk to people, it's like, yeah, the fastest movie I've ever made is like 5 years or 7 years or whatever. So it just takes a long time for stuff to come together. Basically, you need a star to get financed, but stars are, they're popular. So it's like, you can be like, yeah, this person wants to make your movie in 3 years, and you're like, huh. And then maybe in 3 years that person still wants to make the movie or whatever, but it's a lot to sort of coordinate. So and you have to have a lot of luck. Ultimately, like I'm very, very fortunate that this film got made, more so than anything. Like that it ultimately came together is remarkable, because that's the other thing. If you like living in LA, you just see how many things just fall apart for all sorts of reasons. Like most everything does. Like we have so many really, really talented friends out here who stuff fell apart. It's like the pilot didn't get picked up, or, like this person, stopped running that channel or whatever, and then their thing goes away, and you just have these windows of opportunity. So I feel, as much as anything, after that next day of the round of tequilas, from then on, I felt lucky.
Interestingly enough, your inner sense of fortitude began right after that volcanic expulsion of disgusting violicity in the bathroom.
Yes, for sure. That was also going to be in my bio.
I'm actually so glad that you said those things, though, about that process, because I think it does seem weird whenever I try to explain. To date, I've been part of 4 filmed pilots that nothing ever happened to. And that's not unusual at all. But, when you explain it, when you're trying to like explain that work or whatever to, I don't know, somebody who doesn't, I guess, really experience that, it seems like I'm trying to explain flim flam. It's so many moving pieces, and so many of those pieces rely on another piece. Your example of somebody you have attached can secure a certain amount of financing, and then that person gets interested in something else or becomes mercurial. That another piece of it goes away that's connected to that, and you kind of have to re-scaffold the thing, right?
Yeah, it's really like, and you have to have just a lot of things going. Like, I would say probably if you're looking at like my flaws, of which there's certainly many. Yeah, I can get overly precious with stuff. I can write. I can really overwrite, which is ultimately not great. It's not going to get made. Like, it's like, I have kind of like 4 or 5 scripts I'm working on right now, and they're in like varying degrees. Like 2 are kind of done, one's close, 3 are not, or whatever. And you kind of can't, for me personally, it's like I'm very precious with the words, and to your point of like 4 pilots or whatever, like you need to crank, like you need to put out. That's one of the things I need to do, is I need to be less precious, because no one's paying that much attention to what you're writing. Also, like they're like, oh, I get it, I like the idea, let's do it, or not. That's the fine line of like, you want to have something be the best it can be, but you also need to have bulk. You need to be creating a lot of stuff, because it's really hard out here right now. Like the amount of in LA, like the amount of stuff getting made is insane. Where it's like, I was at the Directors Guild national meeting last week, and they did a breakdown of, since 2013, how many episodes of TV there have been. So between 2013 and 2019, there were between 4,100 and 4,700 episodes of TV being made. So 4,100 to 4,700. So then for the pandemic year, it dropped to 2,900. recovered to over 4,000. And then last year there were 1,500 episodes of TV made, down from like 4,000 basically. And also no pilots getting made either. There are no more pilots, which used to be an industry in and of itself. Like you had 4 pilots, but those 4 pilots wouldn't get made now because they're not making pilots. So it's like there's just less work. And so it's like, even for my friends who are doing TikTok, and there are a lot of people who are doing that, TikTok, or doing, looking to go viral, even that it's not so much about quality on that stuff and being consistent. It's about having one thing that pops. And that's the advice on people doing TikTok or whatever. It's like, just put it out there, because if you do something bad, it doesn't hurt you. It's the good helps. In some ways, that's something I need to think about a bit more, instead of being so precious, is putting out a lot of garbage.
If you ever feel like you need somebody to just kind of help encourage you to put out as much garbage as possible, and then with a sense of absolute no personal shame, I'll be your cheerleader for that.
You'll be my huckleberry. Thank you very much. Yeah,
I'm an advocate.
You're an advocate for my hot garbage.
This is a little bit different, maybe a little bit of a left turn. Where did the idea for specifically paint come from? But maybe also, where do you feel like the ideas that really engage you come from?
Well, I'll say, I'm going to answer the second part first and then forget about the first part of the question. So,
my man.
So I think it's ultimately the specificity of experience that creates the universal appeal of something. If you think you're the only weird person feeling something, that's the thing to write about, because everyone feels that way. Like, I mean, Jen's idea about I Mom So Hard 8 years ago was no one was talking to moms honestly. Like and being that everything was about getting a yoga bod,
right,
doing great. Moms, you can do it. Like, and those guys were like, I don't feel that way. I just want to hear, like, I'm doing okay. Like, if my kids are alive and they're clothed at school, I'm doing okay. And so it gave women sort of permission to be less aspirational. Like, you shouldn't have to like become a mom and suddenly become aspirational about everything. Like, it's hard enough. So I think like finding that very specific thing became a universal thing to moms in general. So I think that, to me, is like that's when people are like, you should do something that goes viral. It's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. There are a bunch of ideas in paint that I liked, which were actually, one, it's oddly enough, it comes back to the Eagles, as it does. And I've never, as everything does. So I worked at VH1. That was my first job in my 20s. And I got to work with a lot of rock stars. And and especially being at VH1, not being at MTV, there were sort of a lot of older rock stars and whatever. And a lot of people I absolutely revered were really craptastic. And that was a hard thing, because if you were a singer-songwriter or had some important message, odds are you were not great. If you were in a heavy metal band or hard rock band or whatever, you were fun and nice and, like self-effacing, and didn't take your journey and message so seriously. So part of one of those that was actually like, and look, I never met him. I never met Don Henley, but he did shoot a special for VH1 where, I'm going to regret saying this, but he shot a special for VH1 where he didn't like his shirt, and they reshot the entire concert. So, like, he didn't like his turtleneck. So it was kind of stuff like that, where it was the idea behind paint for me was, if you were successful enough at age 18 or 21 or whatever else, and you never flopped, who would you be? Like, if you thought you knew the world better than anyone else before your brain had fully maturated, like, who would you be? And I think odds are, if you were not a great person then, you were certainly not going to be a great person, in your 40s or 50s or whatever, if you've never failed. And it's like, tragedy teaches you empathy, and failure teaches you not to be a dick. And the idea of I love big fish in small ponds. So Owen's character, Carl Nargle, is sort of a mix of that. Like, he's a PBS painter, and he's got the #1 show in Vermont. And so it's a combination of, if you never had to change, would you change, and who would you be? And also the biggest fish in the smallest of ponds. And when you stop being that, how devastating it can be, because there's sort of nothing else there. And you've defined yourself by that success your entire life. You're not an actual person. You're just someone who gets treated differently because you're successful. So that was sort of the idea for the film. And it was, but that was also, coming back to like, also I was not, for whatever I am now, it was my mom getting sick and then dying when I was 27 that made me a better person. And if I hadn't gone through that, if I really hadn't gotten stripped down to the bolts of, I would not be, for whatever I am now, I would be a worse person if it wasn't for that horribleness. For me, it's like if I had been successful early, or things had worked out differently for me early, like what would I have been? And I do not think I wouldn't be a good person. And I mean, for whatever I am now, I wouldn't be.
You've already touched on the kind of the long game of the movie coming to fruition, but I'm assuming there's times in that stretch where you felt like, is it time to chuck the whole thing? And if you felt that, what in that kind of a moment as a creator, what pushes you through that?
Definitely, it's not having another way to support yourself helps. When you see people out, I mean, it was really 12 years. So it's like you go out to, dinner with people and be like, what's going on with paint? And just be like, same answer for the last 3 years or whatever. So that's definitely, that's hard. It was always close. It was always really close. And the thing that it had going for it was on the blacklist. That really did help keep it going. And then every once in a while, someone would be like, I really love that script. Someone would say something nice that would keep it going. But I think the thing is, it's just not that unusual is also part of it. Like that's the other thing you'd hear is like, oh yeah. That takes forever. And something Mike White said, and Mike White stopped producing it like 5 years in or 7 years in or whatever. He and Dave Bernard were attached for a long time. And then Mike's like, I got to just produce my own stuff. I'm going to stop producing other people's stuff, which makes sense. Like that, because that guy's just prolific. He'll go off and write an entire, TV series by himself in a couple of months in a hotel room, and then it's genius. So it's like whatever his process is man, if you can pull it off, rip it off. But he always said this movie's going to get made when it's ready to be made. In a lot of ways, I'm really thankful that it took as long as it did, just because the world of comedy changed so much in those 12 years where I evolved and the script evolved. And it originally was a story of a painter a young male painter comes in and takes away everything from him. And it was a story of age. And it evolved into a story of a misogynist sort of unaware of his privilege through life. And then a younger female painter comes in, and it's just a better story. It ultimately empowered the women who were at the station. Retrospectively, I didn't have them as like fully fleshed out 3-dimensional characters, just because that was sort of the world of comedy 12 years ago. It's, it's like, right. So the script got much, much better because of it. So that's where I got lucky.
You have experience in both independent creative environments and studio creative environments. So like I wanted to ask you how you would balance like your own creative freedom with, I don't know, what could be considered maybe constraints of like a studio system.
I think the biggest thing is not to be a jerk. If you're someone who pushes back for no reason, then when there's a reason, the people you've pushed back against are going to really be adamant and win and want to win. But for the most part, it's all commerce. It's all like, so you can pretend like you're making art, but unless you're really making art for yourself and happen to be lucky enough to generate income off of that, you're working for someone else, and that someone else is either very rich or part of a corporation or is just better with money than you are. They're going to have ultimate say, and for the most part. And so, but that doesn't mean they're wrong also. Like that doesn't mean there are plenty of smart people who are going to finance stuff or be your boss or whatever. And also have an appreciation for you don't know if something works. Like, you just don't. Chris Nolan, he edits his movies in like, it's either 10 weeks or 12 weeks. He cuts stuff really fast. He does very few takes when he shoots, but he screens a cut every Friday for smart, talented people and gets that feedback. So, that's a guy who is a really singular creative force who respects the opinions of other people. So, and he is decisive and brilliant and works fast and doesn't do anything that gets in the way of the process. And part of that process is appreciating that other people can provide input that helps. So if he didn't think that, he wouldn't be screening cuts every week. So it's, and that guy, is there anyone better? So if that guy is taking notes and soliciting them actively, if that's part of his process, then maybe you should stop being so precious with stuff and listen to people. We did a focus group on paint, which was the only time we screened it for an audience before it was done. But I went the next day and the next morning I cut like 5 minutes out of it. Like, and that's something I'd worked on for a while at that point. And I was like, holy cow, I want to cut this down. Like, it was maybe 6 minutes the next day, like fast. Cause I was just like, I don't want that to exist in the world anymore. This thing that needs to be paced up in here. And I want to figure this out. Like, so that's the nature of any of these worlds. And you can stay the boss of anything as long as it's practical. But like, I mean, for paint, I'm the writer director of it, but contractually, I didn't have final cut. The financier and producer, Peter Brandt's a really smart guy. And he had great notes and stuff. And he had really, really smart people looking at the film and giving good notes. And he and I had a really good relationship because I respected him. I respected his opinions on stuff. In terms of navigating that whole world of like independent stuff or stuff where you're in charge or stuff where there's a bunch of bosses, like, it's try to hire as many good people as you can. Like, everyone on paint was really like, we actively looked for people who were nice. If you can surround yourself with people, not be a jerk, appreciate that you don't know everything. And then also sometimes you're just screwed and sometimes you're just going to get stuck with terrible people. And I've also had that happen, and it's hard. It's really hard. You just kind of try and survive those worlds as best you can and find sort of your advocates or people who are like-minded in there. Yeah. As many decisions as you can make where you're a good person and hire the best people you can and work with the best people you can. That's the offset, because the rest of it will happen. The rest of the nightmares will happen along the way.
So, Brit, now that we've explored your professional background, it's time to spread the picnic blanket out a little bit and get into the nitty gritty of your creative process. So, I guess the first thing I'm interested to know is there a creative skill that you focus on? Also, how do you keep those tools sharp? Especially because in this business, sometimes there's long dry spells between gigs. How do you keep your toolkit sharp?
This is okay. So something that I like right now is Speechify. You can hear back your writing, which for me is super helpful. Like, it's so hard to reread your own stuff. So to listen to it, what I'll do is I'll listen to a script, and then it's like a PDF, and then you can work on the script at the same time. So that, to me, it's like you can really understand so much better, like what jokes are working. It catches typos, which is huge. Like, it's amazing that typos I don't see. So that's one of the things I really like right now. And also, I mean, I read a lot of scripts and I get sent scripts, and I have a hard time. My ability to focus on stuff, I think, just with all of social media has so changed. I read so much less than I used to. I don't read books at all anymore. Like, I just don't. Yeah, I think other things I really like are, there's a Matt Stone, Trey Parker thing online where they're talking to NYU, and it's just a couple minutes long, but they talk about scenes shouldn't be and scenes. It shouldn't be like this happens and then this happens. It's this happens, but this happens, or this happens, therefore this happens. So sort of looking at your script through that lens is really helpful. Just going through, as I'm writing a script, I like to do a Command F which is just on a character's name, and really pay attention to how a character is specifically tracking and making sure a character's got a want that is evolving through the script. So it's like a big part of that's hard is you just start reading the script and being like, just kind of liking it or whatever, and you're not actually working on it. You're just going to rereading it and being like, oh, this sounds pretty good. Like, those are a bunch of the things I like right now, like in terms of the process or whatever. Yeah, it's like I like when people read my stuff. Like, that's super helpful if you can get someone to read it and give you notes, especially people who don't say, oh, it's great. Like, that's nice to hear. For sure, if someone's like, I think you should completely rewrite it, those are the people you need to send your scripts to. and then you say, I can't do that right now. Like, those are exactly the people you should send your scripts to.
Let's say you start down the journey, you're getting actionable feedback from people you trust and people who are smart and insightful and are giving you good direction. Where do you cross the threshold of, I feel in my gut I'm there, even though I might not be hearing it from outside?
I think that like you have to have a lot of things line up for something to work and get made. That's the fine line. Like I on Paint, it was like I had this one agent who wasn't my agent, who worked at my agency, say to me, she said, do you want to know how it works? Like being an agent. I was like, yeah. And she's like, so what happens is you have a client and they send you a script and you do your due diligence. Like, you send it out to a few people, or whatever else. And then you get feedback. And then those people tell you it's not good. And so that's the way it works. And then the script just goes away. And that's how it typically works. And then, but she was like, the thing that's different about Paint is that people really do like this script and people want to fight for it and see it get made. You need to have people on board, and because it will go away. It'll just go away. So it's that fine. It's like you really. I made so many mistakes along the way. Like, there was a scene in Paint that was a really funny, great scene where it was a whole snow thing, and the protagonist, Owen's character, has a snowplow in front of his van. He takes a job plowing driveways because things have gone so bad, and he ends up plowing in the antagonist into his driveway, and knocks down a telephone pole, like plows the car in so he can't leave, knocks down a telephone pole so he can't make phone calls, and that guy has to go on snowshoes to get to the station. Now, that's a world where you need snow. You need a lot of snow for that to play, and you need it's a big set piece. It's at least a day of shooting, and it's a great joke. And it's about 3/4 of a page long, and every year it'd be like, oh, we didn't get this put together for winter this year, so we'll look again to do it next year. You'd be like, oh, we missed the window. And then at one point, Dave Bernard, who was producing it at that point, who was with Mike White, was like, do you need this scene? Because this scene's really hurting us. And for a while I was like, yep, it's a great scene. And then once I cut that, it just made everything easier, because it was like, well, we need a little bit of snow because it's set in Vermont. So we need a little bit, but we can also make snow, like, just made things easier. So I sort of got out of my own way, and I also stopped being lazy. Whatever gets in the way of getting something made is the thing you need to change.
Well, it's snack time, little babies. And Brit, this is the part of the Sick Picnic where we get into the savory creative projects and kind of cool endeavors that you're working on right now. Do you have anything right now that's exciting you, that's thrilling you, that's like got your full attention that you can share, that you want to talk about?
I have a TV pilot that we're taking out. It's called Walk-Ons. It's about college football walk-ons who sort of are between the world of they're not scholarship athletes, and they're kind of not real students, and they're aspirational in terms of wanting to make the team, but more than anything, they're sort of wanting to have a good time. It's sort of kind of a workaholics in a college football world. I was a kicker in college, and so I sort of know that world of like where it would be very, very late at night, and you would have had a couple of cocktails along the way, and you would be talking aspirationally about all of the achievements all of these grand successes on the football field that you were going to have, and you were in no condition to make any of those things happen. So it's sort of that's the world of it. That's really fun because I've stayed friends with my college football friends and stuff. So it's all based on their characters and stuff. And so we just took that out like last week. And then I have a feature script I really like called The Great Pretender, it's basically about, do you remember George Plimpton? Hello. Yes. So it's funny. I once saw him in New York. I was like in my early 20s. He's from Long Island, but he had sort of this English accent. But he was riding on a beach cruiser, like in front of Grand Central, and made a left onto Vanderbilt. And I was like, I saw him. I was like, Mr. Plimpton. And he's just like riding with the basket in front of him. He goes, hello, as he makes a left, like across 42nd Street. It's a George Plimpton character. And so George Plimpton was a guy, he played quarterback for the Detroit Lions, he wrote a book, and there was a movie called Paper Lion about it. He played goalie for the Boston Bruins. He's like 6'5" and very thin. He was a journalist who would sort of, he's a participatory journalist. It's sort of based on that type of person who has lived the largest of lives and an erudite sort of introverted son who's very bookish. And they have absolutely no relationship. It's kind of a road trip movie about those two needing to, with a mom/wife who needs those two to reconnect. And that's one that's actually will go out next week. So that's one I like. Those are the two real things. And then I have like about 85 half-finished scripts if you need anything.
If I need one, I can just get into your script locker and help myself.
3/4 of an idea. Boy, have I got something for you.
If one wanted to hunt down Brit McAdams in the digital universe and find out more about Brit McAdams and his stellar work, where could one find you? How could one connect with you?
I mean, you could watch Paint's on Hulu. You can also watch it on AMC Plus for free if you get a week trial membership. You can also buy multiple copies of it at Amazon. And then, I'm on Instagram at Brit McAdams.
Hold up. We have arrived at the point in the broadcast where I throw my friend Brit McAdams headlong into a barrage, a 10-question barrage. He has to answer these questions off the top of his head. No pre-thought, no overthought, nothing except shooting from the gut. It's time to throw Brit McAdams into the Slapdash hot seat. Whoa. Britt, are you ready for this or what?
Not at all.
Okay. Ramping it up. Favorite type of music, Britt? What is your favorite type?
Sad.
He loves the sad stuff. Is your bed made right now?
No. Maybe, because right now I'm in the back house and we do have someone who helps out with us on Fridays. Maybe.
What was your first word?
I know you wanted. I know you wanted something from me. I know you wanted something from me there, but I'm going to be honest. So I don't know. Morning person. Next.
Rolling on. What food can you not live without?
I mean, I would just say sushi because I just want to eat sushi, but like I don't get it that much. But sushi is easily my favorite thing. Okay. Winter, spring, summer, or fall? Boy, they're all wonderful. I think fall. I think early fall when you can hear the wind through the leaves.
Yes, the wind whistling through the leaves, as the Hostler calls. In the gloaming, what posters did you have on your walls as a child? In your room?
I had Pele. I think I might have Wayne Wong, who was a skier. We definitely didn't. I had a clown. I had the clown painting. But yeah, I think it was Pele and Wayne Wong.
Salty or sweet, Britt?
Salty.
What is one place you'd love to see before you die?
Top of a casket. Sorry.
Unbelievable. All right. Last question. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
To go back to the beginning of this, answer some things differently while flying.
But you'd have to fly back to the beginning of the show.
Obviously, I fly around the earth and re-spin it.
Brit, I am so glad that you took the time to be here on the Sick Picnic. It's been great chatting with you.
Maddie, it's great to see you nearly. I am a gigantic fan of yours. A little sad that your hair's been cut, but I'm very supportive of the rest of it.
Thanks. I appreciate that, man. But rest easy. In about 6 weeks, it's going to be back to full leonine flow. And as we wrap up today's episode of the Sick Picnic, of course, we want to leave your creative bellies full. And so now it's time for your Sick Picnic sweet treat, which is, hey, just get down and dirty and work on a new or existing project every day over the next 2 weeks. Could be your short film, could be a sketch, could be a song, could be a piece of writing or a comedy routine. The key is to be consistent and willing to create, even when you're not feeling the inspiration or you lack that get up and go. But whatever it is, be sure to post on the Sick Picnic Facebook page and use hashtag Sick Picnic Sweet Treat. I can't wait to see what you're up to out there. Thanks so much for tuning in. You guys are not just listeners to us, you're part of the creative community. And so please remember to hit that subscribe button and sign up for the Sick Picnic newsletter at sickpicnicmedia.com. And hey, if you like this episode or you think it might be helpful or beneficial to somebody you know, especially if they're creative, please share it on your socials and leave a 5-star review. Until next time, make your art, have some fun, and imagine anything. We'll see you next time on the Sick Picnic.